Hello and welcome to the Sunday Shale Show. My name is Mike Chatty and today I'm joined by Joel Rudicil, the new president of the Ohio Oil and Gas Association. Joel, thanks for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome, Mike.
Good, thanks for being here. Hey, real quick, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and what leads you to the OOGA chairmanship.
Sure, I'm a small independent oil and gas producer. I've been so virtually all of my professional career. And like most with the Ohio Oil and Gas Association, that's where we all came from. And over the course of actually the last 8 years, I first became a board member and went from being a board member to the executive committee, and from the executive committee then became an officer, and through then the treasurer's 2 years and 2 years as vice president. Today I became president.
About 20, 30 minutes old.
About 20, 30 minutes ago.
Well, good. Right. Well, thanks for joining us as your first full act here. What I wanted to talk to you about, Joel, is a little bit about sort of the challenges and issues that the industry is facing here in Ohio in the next couple of years. What are some of the major challenges and things that you as OOGA and your board and membership are going to have to sort of take on head on here in the coming weeks and months into 2013?
Well, in terms of the Ohio Oil and Gas Association, our membership literally has doubled in the past 2 years, from 1,400 to now over 3,000 members. And so we have worked very diligently to integrate those members because they're coming from a variety of backgrounds. Not only are they the largest producers in the country, there are also a number of service type industry people, there's environmental groups, there's a broad spectrum of those that have an interest in the shale play and how they might become involved.
That's good. Now, speaking a little bit about the shale play, a lot of times we hear that this is just happening so fast and we need to slow down. I mean, in your perspective, we're slowly encouraging businesses to get into the shale play, whether the supply chain or direct producers, but it's not happening fast, dude. This isn't an overnight kind of thing, is it, Joel?
Well, yes and no. What has happened, we had a forecast that was done a couple of years ago, and we forecasted that at this time we would have, 2 years ago we forecasted, there would be 161 wells that have been drilled, and that's where we happen to be right now. So it is on that kind of a pace. So is it too fast? Is it too slow? It is what it is because it's being done with private capital and private lands.
That's good. Well, the other thing I was going to ask you about is, let's say, for example, folks know who you are, but if I'm just John Q. Public when I walked up to you one day and said, Joe, I know you're in the industry, and boy, I've been hearing a lot of things, I've been reading a lot of stuff, I'm not sure what's true, I'm not sure what's false, I've got some concerns. And if I was just a regular, ordinary, everyday citizen, what would you tell that person about what's going on these days?
Well, it depends upon their perspective and the nature of their question. If they're a property owner considering signing a lease, we could talk about those typical kind of provisions of where they might go for some third-party assistance. If it's someone that's concerned about a job in the state and how they might become integrated, I would send them to the Ohio Oil and Gas Association website and talk directly, specifically with our group that is tasked to helping make those kind of connections.
Okay, that's good. Well, that's exactly the kind of information folks need. And kind of turn it on, what do you see for 2013? You think permits will continue to increase, wells will continue to be set up and drilled and produced, and what kind of areas do you think the state of Ohio is going to expand to from where it is right now?
Well, for the most part, there are 5 counties that have proven to be exceptionally productive. And I would expect that to begin to grow and to expand, so we might see it going from 5 counties to 10. And as a producer, I understand, and the public needs to understand, that the initial wells that have been drilled are really exploratory in nature, trying to define and determine the extent of the play and how productive it may or may not be. And there have been several dry holes and disappointments along the way. So as that is better defined, what we'll see then is more development occurring back in some of the leases that may be 640 acres combined with other property owners. We might start to see additional wells being drilled on a pad for economics.
And so every day that map gets colored in a little bit more to figure out exactly where those boundaries are going to be and what kind of counties are in that play.
That's correct, because we sometimes we lose sight that this is an economic activity, and you've got to be successful in order to continue to drill wells. And so based upon those well economics, then it's going to determine how that play is developed and the pace at which it develops.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Speaking of economics, let's talk for just a minute about overall economic investment. There's a lot of numbers out there. I mean, on behalf of the association, maybe even you personally, your particular company, what kind of investment have we seen, and what kind of investment do you think we'll continue to see in Eastern Ohio?
We're seeing investment in a lot of areas. Initially, we saw over the course of 2 years a lot of investment in leases themselves. And so companies came in and they've put together their blocks of lease acreage, and much of that has been settled. And there were several $1 billion that were invested, and a lot of Ohio property owners received those checks. So now what we're beginning to see then, as the development moves forward, we're starting to see the wells being drilled, but the wells are being constrained somewhat due to infrastructure.
Lack of pipeline and other types.
Exactly, because now what we need really to benefit, what operators need to benefit from the liquids component of the gas, is to be able to separate the liquids which have market value and be able to market them. So now we're seeing our much larger diameter pipes being integrated into the system, as well as processing facilities that are under construction to be able to capitalize on the rich natural gas associated with the natural gas itself.
So you kind of had like a chicken and egg, so to speak. You didn't have necessarily some of the pipeline and compressor stations, but now that you've got some of the wells that are ready to come online, you kind of need them both at the same time as they continue to grow.
Well, in many cases, an exploratory well might be drilled nowhere near proximity to a market, simply trying to define the extent of a play. And then once that is done and wells are being drilled and they're successful, then the connecting pipes and processing and so forth.
And over time that infrastructure gets developed.
Yes.
Switching quickly as we wrap up here to the legislative front, mostly again on the state level, what do you see coming down the pike from Columbus? Anything interesting from the legislature about this industry?
Well, the industry is very interested in it because of its, first off, the economic development, which is bringing to the state. It's bringing a number of things with it. Of course, jobs, which we're seeing, and we're seeing several thousand jobs. We're trying to quantify that now, in fact. So from that, then, we're seeing the legislature looking at the industry and saying, for the most part, that maybe we need to step back and let this industry begin to develop before we look at ways to, for instance, raise additional revenues through tax, because we're benefiting through jobs and the economic multipliers that the industry brings on.
You don't want to jump the gun on something like that. You have to allow it to develop.
That's my sense of where the legislature is and leaders in the legislature are currently. So we'll have to see how that plays out, because, as you know, there's a state budget now that is under consideration.
Yes, there is, absolutely. So quickly, just to wrap up here, do you have any other final comments either about this past year and maybe the next year moving forward for either producers, the association, anything you want to final comment on?
Well, the association was started in 1947. And the mission was very straightforward. The mission is that we represent all producers of natural gas and oil in the state. That means small producers such as myself to the very largest that are integrated oil companies. So what our real mission is to continue to integrate all companies and all producers to create an environment and maintain an environment in the state where everyone has an equal opportunity to go out and drill a well and create that kind of economic activity for themselves and for the state.
Absolutely. Well, that's a good time to be in the industry, whether you're a large producer, a small producer, new producer, old producer. It's just a good time to be involved. There's a lot going on.
It's an exciting time.
It really is. Well, Joel, thanks for joining us today. And if you have any more questions or need more information, visit us at eidohio.org. Thank you.
Thank you.
There you go.